Well, good afternoon, traders. It's a fairly quiet day across Asia today. I mean, I've obviously had a lot of that is down to the fact that we've seen fairly limited news. I think as we go through the rest of the week, the event risk does ramp up somewhat. Certainly tomorrow, for us here in Australia, we're going to be looking very closely at what's happening in the employment numbers. The RBA themselves have mentioned a number of times just how influential the labour market will be now in setting policy. They say the neutral rate of unemployment, the level which below effectively creates better wage inflation at 4.5%. So at the moment we're about 70 basis points above that level. So we will be looking at that very closely. If we get a worse than expected number with that unemployment number ticking up to say 5.3%, the Aussie's going to obviously be moved pretty aggressively on the back of that. But so that's something that we will be watching. And if you have a look at the currency prices at the moment, you can see the Aussie dollar just trading into the low 70 cents level. We were seeing that breaking out a little bit yesterday, just through some of those recent highs. But what we saw was a little bit of risk coming out of the market. Some of the comments from Donald Trump really trying to promote a stronger hand in the negotiation situation again, suggesting that he still has more room to raise tariffs if need be. And I think probably part of that was aimed at the Federal Reserve as well. We're seeing the Aussie down at 70 cents. Obviously, cable's been the big mover. We've seen a lot of people coming in this morning just looking and reevaluating this situation, looking at some of the more political headlines that are coming through. But if you have a look at the pound at the moment, it trades at the lowest level since April 2017. Probably a little bit oversold, but I think if we get a move up into the sort of the 10th of July lows around 124.40, it'd be interesting to see how price acts. Because if we go into the UK session, very much we're focused on what's happening in inflation numbers. We've got RPI and we've also got the CPI numbers. If you have a look at the CPI on a year basis, you're expecting the market's expecting that to come out at 2%. As we saw yesterday with yesterday's really strong wage data out of the UK, it's really more about the politics and the political headlines that we've been seeing, which is the bigger driver. So it's unclear whether or not, if we do see a strong number or a big miss, whether or not we're going to see much movement in the pound on the back of this. But at the moment, everyone's lining up to sell rallies in the pound going forward. Having a look at the dollar moves, well, actually, dollar yen's 108.70, it's down about 7 pips or so. There's not really been a huge move coming through there. I think an interesting one is what we're seeing on gold. Gold's down, well, $1 on the sale on the day, trading 14.05. It's trading in this consolidation triangle. It's a really, really interesting setup that you've got this big battle going on between the bulls and the bears. One is right and obviously one is wrong. That needs to reassert itself. And when we do see that breakout either side, I think that needs to be respected. One would imagine that's probably going to come from the Federal Reserve. Tomorrow night, we're going to be watching John Williams, the New York Fed president, very influential guy on the Fed board. He's speaking at 4:15 Eastern Standard Time, and he's very influential in the sense that if what he says could be the nail in the coffin as to this 25-50 basis point debate we've been seeing. So certainly watching what's happening with gold there. Also, oil had a big pullback yesterday. If people are seeing better talks between the Iranians and Donald Trump, and also if we go into US session 12:30, we get the weekly inventory report. So if you're holding oil exposures, do be aware that we do have a big event risk there. If we do see a bigger move relative to the consensus of a 3.6 million barrel drawdown, you could see some high volatility playing through there. And going straight into the equity markets, well, we're looking at a fairly flat open in Wall Street and the US 500 at the moment. Those markets are largely unchanged on the session. There hasn't really been much in the Asian session to really influence those market prices and cause client flow there. But Bank of America is going to be the big one there. Bank of America report in the early session. The market's looking for some about 70 cents on $23 billion worth of revenue. These guys do have a good pedigree around earnings season. They have beaten 9 in the last 9 quarters on the bottom line. They've beaten 5 quarters in a row on the top line on the sales number there. So they do have a good pedigree around earnings. In terms of data, we talked about what's happening in the UK. Have a look at what's going on in building permits and housing starts. I think they're going to be interesting, but they're probably not going to influence market pricing too much.